The morning sun blazed across the tarmac like fire over steel, casting long shadows of marching boots and waving flags. The base was alive with movement. Soldiers returning, some leaving, some simply existing between orders and memories. But then came that moment. The kind of moment that splits time in half. The security officer at the gate was about to stop a woman walking toward the restricted hangar. She wasn't in uniform. Her steps were slow but steady, her clothes plain, her posture straight. The officer raised his hand, ready to ask for ID, but then the light hit her chest. A golden glint flashed across his eyes. The Medal of Honor, worn on a weathered ribbon, resting over her heart like it belonged there. The officer froze. His hand dropped. He couldn't breathe for a second. The woman didn't look at him. She just nodded faintly, and in that moment he knew. He was standing before someone who had already given everything. Her name was Captain Elena Moore, though most who served under her called her Ironheart. Once, she had been the fearless combat pilot who led her squadron through the darkest days of the war in Kandahar. But that was years ago, before the crash, before the headlines, before the silence that followed. They said she was gone, broken beyond repair after losing her entire team in a mission no one wanted to remember. But now, here she was, walking back into the same base that had sent her to war. The same gates that had watched her leave with wings full of fire. She wasn't here for medals or glory. She was here for something deeper, something that could only be found by facing ghosts that never really left. The hangar was quiet when she entered. Dust floated like forgotten memories through shafts of sunlight piercing the old windows. In the far corner sat what was left of her old F-22 Raptor, the same one she had flown into hell and barely survived. Its wings were torn. Its paint faded, but its presence filled the air with the heavy echo of history. Elena reached out, her hand trembling slightly as she brushed her fingers across the cold metal. For a moment, it was as if she could still hear their voices, her team, her brothers and sisters in arms, laughing, shouting, living. She remembered that last mission, the one that earned her the Medal of Honor but cost her everything. The base had been under attack, an ambush no one saw coming. Her squadron was outnumbered, the sky a storm of fire and chaos. One by one, her pilots went down, her radio filled with static and screaming. She refused to retreat. She went back again and again, drawing fire away from the others, refusing to leave anyone behind. When her jet was hit, she didn't eject. Not until she had guided the crippled aircraft far enough to keep it from crashing into a nearby civilian village. She survived, and barely. But the guilt never left. When the medals came, she didn't show up to receive them. When reporters called her a hero, she turned away. She didn't feel like one. To her, the Medal of Honor wasn't a symbol of courage. It was a reminder of everything she'd lost. Years passed. The world moved on. But heroes don't retire, not really. Somewhere deep down, she knew she had one more mission left. And that's why she was here again, standing before the wreckage of her old jet. The place where she had lost her family and herself. She had come to say goodbye. Outside, a group of young air cadets were marching past, their laughter echoing through the hangar doors. Elena turned to watch them, so full of life, so unaware of what waited beyond the clouds. She smiled faintly. One of the cadets noticed her and stopped. "Ma'am, are you?" He started, but his voice trailed off when he saw the medal. He stood straighter, saluting her instantly. The others followed, one by one, their faces lighting up in awe. They didn't know her story in full, but they knew what that medal meant. In that moment, something inside her began to heal. For the first time in years, she didn't feel the weight of guilt. She felt pride, not for what she had done, but for what she had stood for the ones who couldn't come home, for the spirit of courage that lived on in those who followed. She walked toward the young cadets, her voice calm but strong. She told them not about medals or missions, but about what it meant to serve, to love something bigger than yourself. She spoke of the people who would never wear uniforms again, but whose stories were written in every flag that flew. Her words were quiet, but they carried more power than any speech could. Some of the cadets had tears in their eyes. As the sun dipped lower, she turned one last time toward the hangar, saluted the wreckage of her old F-22, and whispered a farewell no one else could hear. Then she walked away, her figure glowing in the fading light, a living reminder that heroes aren't defined by what they survive, but by what they refuse to surrender. Hours later, the gate guard, the same one who had frozen earlier, found himself staring at the empty road where she'd disappeared. He still couldn't shake the image of that metal catching the sun. He didn't know her name, but he'd never forget the way the air around her felt. Heavy, sacred, unbreakable. That night, he went home and looked up the Medal of Honor recipients archive. And there she was, Captain Elena Moore, United States Air Force. The citation read, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of her life above and beyond the call of duty." But the real story, the one that mattered, wasn't written there. It lived in every soul she'd inspired just by walking through that gate again. Because sometimes courage doesn't look like battle. Sometimes it looks like coming back to the place that broke you and walking through it without fear. And sometimes the brightest light comes from metals that don't just shine in the sun, but reflect the pain, the sacrifice, and the love of those who carried them. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who believes in courage, healing, and the unseen heroes among us. Your support keeps these real stories of sacrifice and honor alive. Comment below. What does true courage mean to you? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Your words might inspire someone who really needs them today.